Hello and welcome to this new video where today I'm going to talk about um, basically just all the agents in the game currently. This is going to be sort of a tier list where I just rank all agents, all what, 27 at this point, and put them on a tier list. Um, so yeah, um, let's not waste any more time. Let's just get straight into it. And we start off with Astra. Well, Astra, I think, is there's not really. I'm just gonna have the tiers like this, and then I'm gonna explain why I put them in certain tiers. You're gonna probably recognize some sort of patterns, but let's just go. So Astra for me is sort of like it's just always gonna be a solid option, and it's sort of like I would say at this point. Obviously, there was a slight Astra nerf. I don't think it's mattering that much. Um, it just makes the timing window of Astra a bit more precise. But overall, I would say Astra's like in a very healthy spot, especially competing with Omen. I do feel like some other controllers like need to get to that sort of level, but I do think both of them are in a pretty healthy spot. I would say Astra currently is like A tier. I would say maybe Astra and Omen could both get a nerf. I could see that happening, but I think both of them are on a sort of a similar level right now. And although Astra isn't getting as much pick rate, I think that's mostly due to a lot of people not really knowing how to play Astra, and also sort of Astra not being a main pick on a lot of the maps. While I do think Astra can be played on a lot of the maps where she isn't a main pick, I do think she just sort of doesn't really get played as much because people are just so comfy on Omen that they don't feel like changing it up. Now, going into Breach, um, I do think Breach has a good spot in the sort of meta where he is a very supportive initiator, but I think there's just something about Breach that makes him look a lot better than he is right now. I think Breach is one of those agents that have a very low skill floor, but also a very low skill ceiling. And I think that's the issue at like a pro level with Breach, where although the entry point is very low, meaning like in like a premier team or like in a not like hyper coordinated space, you can get a lot of value out of Breach. Getting much more value than that is kind of like not that easy to do. And not only is it not that easy, I don't think it's very doable to get much more value than what you can do in just like a premier team. And that's sort of the issue with Breach, right? Now, does the reason Breach has gotten a lot of pick rate lately, personally, mostly has to do with one, ease of use, but also two, just the combos with TEJO have just been so ridiculously good. Um, and like him, like the synergies between him and TEJO are just so strong that um, he kind of just became a meta pick because of that. Now, him as an agent on his own is, I would argue, a bit on the worst side, and therefore I would put him in like a C tier. I think he could get some slight buffs, but overall, I think he's in a pretty good spot, especially considering also he is very spammy with his utility, and considering how much people are complaining about utility and like that there's too much. Breach might be a character that you should be a bit wary of. Now, coming into Brimstone, I feel like Brimstone is one of those characters that just is very limited by how his kit is formed. As we see, every single controller basically in the entire game, except for Brimstone, has some sort of rechargeable smoke, which makes it sort of feel like Brimstone could just get absolutely destroyed by a really good default, which makes him really difficult to pick on a lot of maps. Now, there are certain maps where Brimstone can just be really valuable because of like the length of his smokes being so super long, the ability to place down three smokes at the same time. But overall, otherwise, Brim's kit isn't strong enough for him to justify having no rechargeable smokes. But he can get picked on certain maps where like there are certain maps where basically Brim is almost feels like a must pick at this point, just simply because the way his kit is built. But if you pick him on any other map, he's kind of throwed. So therefore, he's going in D tier. Now going into chamber, this is another one that's like very difficult to rate because it's like, to me personally, like chamber in the right comp can be ridiculously strong, like ridiculously strong. But I think he needs so many like good synergies around him that it's really difficult to get him to that level. And therefore, I'm gonna put him in C tier for now. Now there are some agents that I will talk about less, and some agents I will talk about more, as you will see throughout the video. Now Clove is going to be one I'm going to talk about quite little, as Clove is just straight up going to go into F tier. Look, Clove as a ranked agent is the best agent in the game, and it's not even close. But in pro play, there are certain merits you could see on why you would play her or them, but overall, like, there's really just no reason, especially now with the 40-second recharge on the smokes. They got the shortest smokes in the game. They recharge longer than most other agents in the game. And the metal is a mediocre ability is best, and the pick me up is just shit. So to be frank, like, there's really just no reason to play Clove in pro play whatsoever. Now we're going into the more stronger territory of agents, where we got Cypher. Now Cypher is a bit of a difficult agent to place at the moment, because I do feel like there's been a pretty Vice dominant meta just simply because of TEJO's existence, and that synergy is quite strong, especially with Yoru as well. Now I still think Vice is better than Cypher, even now when we're probably gonna move away from the TEJO meta. As you're gonna see later, TEJO is brutal. But basically, I think Cypher is like a solid sentinel on any map, but it's like, personally, Vice will just straight up be better on every single map, and that's why he's going B tier for now. Now going into Deadlock. Deadlock is one of those picks that I feel kind of similar to like a Breach or Chamber. Deadlock for me just feels like one of those agents that's just like has a really low skill floor, but also a pretty low skill ceiling. Like, there's very good synergies you can make with Deadlock, but those synergies don't take you very far. They go to a very surface level, and when you've scratched that surface, there's pretty much not anything under it. And I know Deadlock got the buff and everything, and she looks crazy, but I just personally believe that Deadlock, like, she's very comp specific and very map specific, and therefore she's going in C tier with Breach and Chamber. Now going into Fade, I do think Fade is one of the more underrated initiators in the game. I think Sova is dominating quite a lot right now, and there's a good reason for that. He is incredible. But I do think Fade is getting sort of underutilized a bit. I do think Fade is maybe not stronger than Sova, but I think Fade is sort of like in the point where she can compete with Sova, and I genuinely believe that. It's just that not only is the map pool really poor for Fade right now, Fade is also like getting extremely underutilized right now. And I think with Sunset coming back in the map pool, we're going to start seeing Fade a bit more. But overall, I still think Fade is a really good agent, so I'm going to put Fade in A tier. Now moving on to Gecko. Gecko is a difficult one because I feel like Gecko is sort of the opposite of these agents, where his skill floor is somewhat low. No. Or basically, the skill floor of Gecko is very low, but the skill like for level is also extremely low. Now, Gecko is one of those agents where, like, utilized correctly, like, you can get so much value out of Gecko that is just, like, not fair. Now, the difficulty about his kit is just straight up his utility is difficult to get value out of in the first place. Now, if you manage to get value out of it, it can give you so much value because you can get it back over and over and over again. Now, with that, you need a bunch of lineups, which I feel like no Gecko actually has. And you need a bunch of other stuff that just no Gecko has. And that's why Gecko is sort of like in a weird spot right now. Like, a lot of players are playing Gecko, or will be playing Gecko, I think. But I just think there's not many good Geckos. Like, genuinely, I just think there's not many good Geckos. But I would genuinely put Gecko in like A tier. Now, moving on to Harbor. Oh, it's F tier, F tier. Look, it's higher. He's higher than Clove. All right. I do think there's some ways to utilize him. I just personally think that the amount of negatives you get out of an agent like Harbor are just too much for an agent like Harbor to ever be good. Harbor just has like the wall, where the wall, like his main ability, basically just makes sure that by using it, he basically announces, "Oh yeah, guys, I am right here. I am right here, and we're executing right now." It's just brutal. Now, you can utilize him in ways where that's not the case, and you can actually use him very well. But not only is it very rare to see, it's also like I think there's most of the time just a stronger option on basically every single map in the game. So it's just like the only map I could genuinely see Harbor be played on at all is Icebox, and even that for me is like probably the second or third best comp strategy to play on that map. Like it's just kind of brutal. Now I do think it's a bit unfair to put him next to Clove like this because I think there's a pretty big like gap here. But I don't think he deserves to be in D tier because I don't think that he will ever be meta on any map in his current shape. Now moving on to ISO, this is another beast. I mean, ISO for me is one of those agents where his kit is really, really good, but he's just not a dive duelist. And when you're not a dive duelist, you basically need to build the entire comp around him. And that becomes very difficult. And I don't think ISO's strong enough to the point where building your entire comp around ISO is a viable strategy on more than maybe a couple maps in the game. And for that simple reason, he's C for me. I think he's like high C. I will say. I think he's like above all of these. I would probably put Chamber above Breach as well, but he's still C for me. Now moving on to Jett. Jett is a rough one because Jett is just like Mr. Consistent. I mean, or Mrs. Consistent, Miss Consistent. I don't know. Jett is just like a solid pick and always will be. But also, I personally, at this point, I do think Jett just has. There's just a better option to Jett in literally every single comp you can build. It's like, oh, you want an untradeability mechanic? Go Yoru. Oh, you want to be able to dash onto site quickly and like do something like that? Go Waylay. Oh, you want to be able to. And then Yoru just adds many more dynamics that you just don't get with Jett at all, and same with Waylay. So it's just like there is just no place for me personally for Jett in this meta. Um, so I am putting her in C tier, but the only reason she really is in C tier is because there's still a lot of people playing her and finding success with her. And the reason people are finding success with her is because she's still like a decently good agent. There's just so many better agents in her class that it doesn't really. Yeah, I don't know. Now moving on to KO. I'm gonna put KO in C tier as well. I'm just gonna say like this right now, out of the gate. KO is so fucking overrated, man. It's not okay that he's getting picked this much. And look, KO on Icebox, I think is fine at best. And then KO on Ascent is really good. Now KO on any other map in the game is dog shit. And that's where I feel like a lot of people have gotten it wrong. Because a lot of people are still picking KO because they think he's so good, but he just isn't. He just straight up isn't. And that's the issue. KO is just not good on any map that isn't called Ascent and maybe Icebox. And therefore, he cannot be higher than C tier for me. Now, there is like a pretty good, like, you can still use, K is still usable on a lot of maps and can still get quite a lot of value. He's just not very good. And that's like the difference, right? You can get quite a lot of value out of him. But if a team knows how to play around KO, you will literally get stomped. And that's the issue. Now, Killjoy, especially with TEJO going out, is going to be pretty strong. I think personally, Killjoy still has the issue where while her kit is really strong, it has more to do with her individual abilities than actually like her entire kit being super strong. And also her stalling abilities does feel very minuscule at times, but there still are maps where like Killjoy is basically a must pick, and for that, and quite a lot of them actually, and you can play Killjoy on most maps, and I do think Killjoy is just a solid pick overall, and that's why I'm gonna put her in B tier. Now Neon is another one that's like really odd, because I feel like the ceiling of Neon, like a really really good Neon player, is like one of the best duelists, better than Jett in a lot of situations as well. But I just think Neon usually gets outshined by many other duelists in the game as well, similar to Jett. I just think Neon is a more understandable to play compared to Jett, because like there's still things where I watch a Neon player, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why they play Neon, and Neon can actually work in that sense, and that's like a thing that you can't do with any other duelist. With Jett, I just don't have that, and that's why I'm putting Neon in B tier. Now moving on to Omen, I think we already know where I'm going to put Omen. Omen is an A tier agent for me. I think he is really good, and I could see both Omen and Astra honestly getting nerfs, even more than Astra just already got. But I think overall they're in a pretty good spot, at least compared to each other. Now other controllers in the game I think are worse quite a lot, and that's a bit problematic because you don't want two controllers just dominating the meta. But I genuinely think that's what it's looking like right now. Now Phoenix, oh god, Phoenix. Look, Phoenix is not good, right? Phoenix is here, definitely. Now, the buffs they gave him were great and all. Like they were great, especially for like ease of use and like how good he is in like especially comp. But in pro play, once again, similar to ISO, he's just not an entry. He's just not a dive duelist, and that's the issue here. Now the difference between him and ISO is that ISO literally has an untradeability mechanic which literally makes him be able to tank a bullet. Now Phoenix has nothing. Phoenix has a wall that's just dog shit. He has a molly that's just a pretty shitty molly. And then he has some of the best flashes in the games and one of the best ults in the games. But when you have those two abilities and then you have nothing else, there's just better options. Like Yoru flashes can be used in a better way, in my opinion, a lot of the time than Phoenix flashes. Then they're more flexible. Then his wall and molly, I mean, just clone and TP is just better there. And then ult wise, I think Phoenix ult is probably, especially with the recent nerfs, on the same level as Yoru ult. So then, if you're gonna pick your Phoenix my only question to you is, why the fuck are you not just picking Yoru? Because Yoru genuinely is just better in every single sense of the word. And you can't do anything with Phoenix that you can't do with Yoru. Because like the ults are pretty similar as well. It's just that Yoru ult is genuinely just better in every single way. Like that's just how it is. It's just the only difference as well though is that Yoru ult obviously costs a bit more and everything, so it makes sense that it's better. But overall, I just think you're straight up just a better pick in every single sense of the word. Now moving on to Raze. Raze is, in my opinion, the second best duelist in the game. And for that reason, I am going to put Raze in high A tier. You're gonna see later that there's a duelist that's better than her, and I do think that duelist is definitely an S tier. But right now, Raze is an A tier agent, and it's just sort of like such a good and versatile duelist on most maps that you can't really go wrong picking Raze ever. Now the next two, or let's go over them one at a time. Reyna, pretty quickly, just gonna say, if you think Reyna's anywhere else than F tier, you're just wrong. I mean, the only map that I can literally make any arguments for playing Reyna on is Icebox, and even that is just a complete stretch. And the people that have tried it in pro play have just lost and lost and lost. So Reyna in pro play, no thanks. Now, Sage is going to be a D tier pick, and basically the reasoning I have behind this is that I think people are literally smoking on Icebox right now. They're smoking some of that real shit, and should be playing Sage on this map. Like, if you look at any statistics right now, Sage still has, to this day, like a 60% non-mirror round win rate on Icebox. And not only does she have that, she also, like, if you just look at how the map is built, she just synergizes with that map like perfectly. And still nobody's playing her on that map. The issue is, the reason why nobody's playing her on that map is just because nobody plays Sage on any other map, so people don't even bother checking if Sage is any good still. So, therefore, Sage is a D tier pick. Now, Skye, honestly, is also D tier. This might be a hot take, I don't know. But personally, I just think the Initiators class is so strong that Skye just becomes weak. I mean, no rechargeable flashes, first of all, just makes Skye so extremely unflexible. And then it's gonna be kind of the TEJO syndrome. Just the TEJO, I think it's even worse. But basically, Skye's utility is good in themselves, but it's just that one thing that just makes it just tanks it so hard, like so hard. Now Sova is A tier as well, along with Fade. I think Sova is at a point where you could probably play Sova on every single map, and I think I would be fine with it. I don't think it's going to be the best pick on every map, but I think Sova is to the point where he's just a solid pick on every single map, and he's just always been good on every single map. Or not maybe always been good on every single map, but he's always been a good agent. Like, no matter what meta, like, he's not getting many changes. He might be getting some changes here and there, but he's always been good. And they've never really, like, nerfed this guy. Like, there's been slight nerfs here or there, but, like, never really have we seen, like, a big Sova nerf, which is kind of surprising, considering how much he's been, like, a pretty dominant pick every single year consistently. Now moving on to TEJO. They fucking killed this guy, man. I think he's on the level of High Harbor, probably. Now this is probably the one that I feel like most people are here for. And let's just talk about it for a bit. Because I don't think people realize how big of a nerf non-rechargeable missiles are. Because the reason why TEJO got picked so much and why TEJO was so broken is because of his flexibility. Now, that might not be what people think he's good at, but basically, TEJO is so absolutely broken because his missiles are so good in so many different situations, and that you get them back means that you can have them for every single one of those situations, and it's really good in every single one of those situations. Now the rest of his kit is fine and it's really good. Like his drone is really good, his stun is really good, and he has one of the best ults in the game. The issue is that when you have missiles with no cooldown, what ends up just happening is one missile but on its own is not very usable and will basically just be used to clear corners. Now, and now basically what you're just getting is when you use two missiles, they're just gone for the rest of the round, and it just absolutely destroys him. Because the reason people were picking him so much is because he is so strong that you basically need to pick him on every map because of his flexibility. But the reason why also some teams didn't end up picking him at the start was just because he is also very limited in a way. Like compared to other initiators, he is very much not like on par with like the massive like the different initiators all have like a very like large niche, and TEJO doesn't really have that, and he has a bit of everything, and therefore it's very like giving up a slot to put TEJO in. It's just a lot of the times doesn't feel worth it unless he has an ability which is really strong. And that's what TEJO had. He had an ability that was super flexible and super strong, and he had it on recharge. And that just like when that recharge goes away, it just genuinely destroys this agent completely. And the entire premise around why TEJO is so strong is because of those missiles on recharge. And when you take that away, you've just completely like like broken the agent, like in a bad way, in a way where it's just he's just shit now. And it's just sad, man. It's just sad. Honestly, I would have liked them. Like if I would have changed them personally, I would either have made I would have made the missiles, if they want to be non-rechargeable, I would have made them bigger, like somewhat bigger, like maybe the size of like a Keko Molly, like something like that, just so that you can actually like one missile on its own is still usable without just being used as a KO Molly. Because having two KO Mollies as your primary is not very strong. Like it just isn't. Like to be completely like it just isn't. I'm sorry, it just isn't. And that's basically what he has right now. And um, it doesn't matter if the rest of his kit is good, because having that as your primary is just brutal. Now moving on to Viper. This is going to be a bit of a hot take, but I'm going to put Viper in S tier. Now, Viper for me still genuinely is just so good. Like, it's just ridiculous how good Viper is. Like, with the ISO Euro meta now going on and everything, and with Breach TEJO being gone, I think the two metas that are going to be on this map is one, ISO Euro. A lot of teams are going to stick to that ISO Euro. Two, is going to be a double controller meta with Viper. And then we go to Icebox, where Viper is a must pick. And then we go to Pearl, where Viper can definitely get played if you just use her correctly. Which obviously we haven't seen that a lot, but we did see it in the past, and I think it has looked good in the past. It's just that now, obviously that was in the old Viper meta, but I still think it can be used and can be used in a really good way. Now, Ascent, I feel like we could see a Viper meta coming in genuinely, like if you just used correctly. Once again, it's just not been shown yet, I think, personally. And then, I mean, what other maps are there? Like Sunset Viper can be really good on, and we've seen that in the past. What other maps are in the map pool? Like, basically, what I'm trying to say is that Viper can be played to an extremely high level on every single map, and she's just extremely strong and genuinely has the strongest ability in the game in that wall. And that wall alone, like the Viper wall on its own, makes Viper one of the best stages in the game, no matter what. Now, Vice is also going to be an S tier agent. And I know they made nerfs to her, but basically what the nerfs just created was one of the things that made her so strong before was just that she had the two things that a Sentinel can have, and she had both in abundance. So, for example, what I usually say is like Deadlock and Sage are stall senties, and basically what that means is just they don't really have any informational util at all, but what they do have is just an immense amount of stall. Now, Chamber is in the other category, which I'm just going to call informational senties, and basically what it means is just you have some sort of info, and then you have a bunch of util that you can play around. And that's where like Cypher, KJ, Chamber comes in, sort of deal. Now Vice has a wall that gives her info, a flash that gives her info, but then also she had almost 30 seconds of stall in her sheer wall and her thorns. Now basically what they just did is, obviously every other Sentinel in the game also has stall, but it's just on a much smaller basis. What they just did is they just lowered her stall a bit. And while that does make her worse at the stall part, her stall is still like some of the best in the game. Like genuinely, she still has some of the best stall in the game. It's just that you need to use it better now. It's a lot more punishable if you use your Vice utility too early. But if you're a good Vice player, like you still got some of the best stalling util in the entire game with the Razor Vines and the wall. Now, moving on to Waylay. I'm just going to chuck Waylay straight into B tier right now. This is probably one that a lot of people want me to talk about as well. Basically, to me personally, Waylay is just sort of like a really decent duelist. I think Waylay has some issues and some things that makes her not really be an A tier pick, and instead be a B tier pick. Personally, for me, it's just about, do we have safe spots to dash into? Because you sort of need that to play Waylay well. And if a map doesn't really have that and the like dashing patterns are very predictable, it's very difficult to play a good Waylay. But overall, I think Waylay is a really solid pick and a really solid agent on a lot of maps, and therefore she goes B. Now Yoru is the final S tier agent. I don't think the ult nerfs will make much of a difference. I mean, 2 seconds less in the ult, sure, it's gonna make it that the ult needs to be a bit better timing. Then there might be some ults that you can't fully do, but overall, it's not gonna change it that much. And then +1 ult point. I mean, yeah, sure, it changes it a bit, but honestly, like that, the dimensional drift should always have been. It should always have been 8 ult points, and it's just ridiculous it wasn't, to be honest. So they basically just made the ult like go from without those changes, like the most broken ult in the game, to now being a slightly less, but still probably the most broken ult in the game. And it's just, and the rest of his kit is just really good as well. So it's just like, yours is really, really fucking good, man. And yeah, that's about it. Now, that was all agents. We're going into almost 35 minutes here. We're on 34. But I hope you enjoyed this video. We're gonna end it here. And if you did, I mean, just please like, subscribe, maybe comment something. If you disagree, please do. I mean, it's fun to have some convos, you know? Just have some fun. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.